podcast, and we want to support all our partners. Here is Ben and his new podcast, Baker Rangers Movie Talks. Follow Ben and his guests as they review a movie of the week. If you want to see more from Billy, Ben, myself, or all our partners, please follow us at Zero to Hero Pod across all platforms. And without further ado, here is Baker Rangers Movie Talks with Ben and all his technical problems.
Hi, welcome to Baker Rangers and welcome to Baker Rangers Movie Talks. This is a space where we talk about some movies that we love. And today I am here with the one and the only Juan Reviews Movies. You can catch him on TikTok at Juan Reviews Movies. Hey, he's a great movie review TikTok page. So if you love movies and movie reviews, check him out. Yes.
This guy right here.
That guy.
Check him out. Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to talk about Star Wars, man. Star Wars is one of my longest loves ever, so I can talk about Star Wars for life. So be prepared to record for a long time.
Oh, that's what we're here for. I know we're on a limited time budget, but I think we have enough time to fill a lot of content. So yeah, and Star Wars is probably my favorite movie franchise of all time. Like Ghostbusters is my favorite movie, but I just love Star Wars the first time I ever watched it. So let me let the audience know. Let us know how you were introduced to Star Wars. What was your reaction the first time you seen Star Wars, and why you love Star Wars today?
Wow, man, that's a huge can of worms to open. Yeah. Well, I was born in 1978, so the year before that, if you know your history, Star Wars came out with A New Hope in 1977, and as I got older, around like 1988, 1989 is when I really got introduced into Star Wars through my brother, and he started showing me the movies, and the first movie that I was introduced to was A New Hope, and to this day, A New Hope is probably my favorite movie because it's the first movie that I was introduced to. It's the start of Star Wars. It's probably the most purest Star Wars movie you can ever have. Everything after it just got a little bit more saturated, a little bit more like Hollywood for me. It's like A New Hope is Star Wars to me, and always would be. Just like you see the little poster. What is that?
Banner or
it's a what do you call that thing? I'm forgetting what it's called. It's a puzzle. It's a puzzle.
Oh, puzzle. Okay.
And I put hodgepodge on it and I put it in a frame. But as you can see, I love A New Hope. It's always going to be my favorite movie. But yeah, I got introduced around 88, 89 when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and from then on, just like stuck with it until high school. And then in high school, I kind of went away from Star Wars for a bit because, girls, and I didn't want to be perceived as a nerd or anything. So like it was still on the back burner, but I didn't really pay attention too much to Star Wars during high school. But immediately after high school, around 1999, which I graduated in 97, in 99, they said that the prequels were coming back. So I dove right back into it and loved Star Wars ever since, and still do.
Yeah, I was a little bit later because I was born in 86. So I was already almost a decade after the first Star Wars movie came out. But I didn't know anything about it until I was about 8. My aunt babysat me, and she was like, "Here, let's just, put you in the room, watch a movie. Here's a list of movies. Here's some videotapes." And I saw Return of the Jedi. I'm like, I have no idea what that is, but that sounds pretty cool. And so, yeah, I watched it, and I fell in love. I didn't see the other ones until I was probably about 10, like right before the special editions came out. I never got to see the special editions when they came out, like in theaters, but I don't know, I just fell in love. I love the whole original trilogy, and I was in the 7th grade. It was the end of 7th grade when the prequels came out, so
Hmm.
I was 12, almost 13, so I was still young enough to still enjoy the prequels when they started. So it was, yeah, I just loved it. I really wish I was able to collect any of the toys when I was younger, but we never had a whole lot. So, but yeah, yeah, not from my beginnings. I I just fell in love with the name Return of the Jedi. I was like, I don't know what a Jedi is, but Jedi sound cool. so
Right.
so
Just like the whole magic part of it is like moving things with your mind and just being this. And at that age, I was kind of into like Japanese samurai movies as well. So if you know anything about Star Wars, I mean, it's a mesh between westerns and Japanese samurais. So that's probably why I liked it so much. And I don't know, just since then, I've always loved Star Wars and continue to love it. And it's just a part of me, it's on me. Like, I got Luke Skywalker's, lightsaber on me. I got tattoos all over me. I love Star Wars. And when my tattoo artist was like, "Is this what you want to do?" I was like, "Yes." All right, you ready? Because it's gonna be on you forever. It's like, yes, I love Star Wars. I love it. I will have it on me forever because I love this franchise. I love the characters. I love what they mean. I love what they represent. Because I mean, everyone has a little bit of good and bad in them, and and as a kid growing up, you're kind of battling with that. What is good and bad? What is right and wrong? How do I um, how do I how do I be different from other people but be the same person as well? That's the kind of that's the point in time when you're looking around for boundaries with your parents and try to figure out things with your life as well. So for me, Star Wars was life. I learned a lot of things through Star Wars just by when we first heard this the first time when Darth Vader said to Luke Skywalker, he's like, "No, I am your father," and he's like, "No, it's impossible." When you have those types of those contrasts between different characters, you see those in yourself and in with your father. You can be like, "Oh, you're such a Darth Vader, Dad." Like, why you got to be such a Darth Vader? And I felt that a lot because your father is telling you something. Darth Vader is telling something to his son that he did not want to believe at all whatsoever, and it still rings true to life right now when your father, when you were a kid, or even today, if you're still lucky enough to have your parents around, which I don't, to have your father tell you something and you don't want to believe it, but then down the road, you're like, damn, that guy was right. So it's life for me. It's always been life, and a lot of the things are a lot of coming to age. It's kind of a bit of a coming to age story as well. So um, kind of reiterating why I enjoy a lot of Star Wars. So I rambled.
oh no, you're fine because it is a story about a family, and
Sure.
family's at the core of the story. It's about like with the dynamic with Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. Luke did not want to accept that there's a generational curse that his father killed a bunch of people. He's not a good guy. He does not want to
Right.
believe it because he does not want that to become him. So it's that coming of age story of knowing who you are despite the your past family sins,
Yeah. Through
and
your blood.
also yeah, and the redemption of that too, because Darth Vader was not a good guy, killed lots and lots and lots of people, and he was able to, I guess, be redeemed, which kind of proves that no matter what you've done in your past, there are repercussions. So it's not like well, he did die, so you do bad things, you have consequences for those that actions, but that doesn't define who you can be in the future.
Right.
So
Absolutely, man. And I don't know if I touched on my first reactions on Star Wars, which obviously I said it was a New Hope. My first reaction to it when I was 8, 9 years old was like, wow, this is real. Like, this looks real. And then getting older and finding out that they were using models, like 1/8 scale models and putting them on strings and using like backgrounds with poked holes in them, and just made absolute genius out of what they did. And that's what I saw. It was amazing. I thought it was real. Like, how did they make space? Like, how do they do this? There was no CGI back then. They just did everything with models and backdrops, and I was just floored as a kid watching that at 8, 9 years old. I was like, wow, the universe is and vast. Like, this could actually happen. Darth Vader could actually be out there, but he's not. He's not really out there. But I mean, you never know. I mean, universe is huge
It's ever expanding. So,
for sure.
um, but yeah, because I think even with the special effects of the original Star Wars, even afterwards, a lot of movie studios really couldn't produce the same quality. Even with the um, trying to think of that word, but practical effects.
Yes.
And it's kind of weird because when ILM was started, Hollywood was disbanding all of their special effects studios.
Mhm.
So George Lucas picked people that were making commercials and put them in a room, and all by themselves. They got all full creative. See, I can't even speak. Full creative control over how they were doing their effects because George Lucas didn't know how to do it either.
Right.
So and they created that from the ground up, and it looked fantastic. Then it still, once you clean it up with digital cleanup magic, it still looks great.
Right.
I'm still a proponent of CG. I'm not as big of an opponent as a lot of people are when it comes to Star Wars. But yeah, you even the newer movies, the sequels, the practical effects didn't, to me, doesn't look as good as the original trilogy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it was just George Lucas trying to take that step ahead and be a pioneer in the special effects and move it forward. Because if you do know history of Star Wars, you know that he chose to do 4, 5, and 6 first because he believed that 1, 2, and 3 had too much effects in it that he couldn't do it back in 77, 82, and 86, or whenever the years that they came out. So he really did. They didn't really have the technology back then, so that's why he went with 4, 5, and 6. And such a great way of doing it now, and people look at doing movies that way and it was a mistake, or it was a more practical way of doing the movie because he could actually physically do it with props and backgrounds and stuff like that. So when he actually got to do it in 99, when it actually came out, episode 1, he went CGI out. And I feel like that was a little bit of what kind of brought Star Wars down a little bit. It was a little bit more Hollywood for me. Some of the stories and the characters were a little flimsy, and I didn't really care for the prequels being 1, 2, and 3 when they first came out, just because I mean, after I saw 1, 2, and 3, I you know, compartmentalized all 3 of them together. It was just like, this is not good. This is not good. But then after watching them over and over again, I started having a love more for episode 3 and really loving episode 1, The Phantom Menace, just for certain scenes in general. Uh, which I was like, these are all, and the scenes that I really enjoyed were all practical moments, or all just moments of just sheer, just like emotion and family. And that's what Star Wars was about. You said it. It's about family and about knowing that your father is someone that you do not want to be. You don't want to be that bloodline, but you actually have that in you. And to battle with the evil and the good inside of you is what Star Wars is. And they didn't really do that in 1, 2, and 3. Even though I think that Ray Park is amazing at being Darth Maul, and the I say the best lightsaber scene to this day. I don't know if there's any other. There's probably one in the Clone Wars, the animated series, but it has to be when Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Darth Maul fight, going through that little layer or whatever they're going through. That is probably my favorite scene in episode one, and I probably watch it just for that and shut it off immediately after that, because that's probably the only best part of it. But yeah, I've grown to love all of Star Wars. I don't have kids, but I know a lot of people who have a lot of kids, and they say, you know, I love all my kids, I love them all, but I do have favorites. You know, what I think someone else said this, but yeah, I love all my kids, but you know, one's a doctor, one's a lawyer, one works at McDonald's, one rides the bus and doesn't have a job at all. And then like each one has a different characteristic about them, but you love them all. And that's what I've come to when it comes to the prequels and the sequels of the movies. Is I love them all, but there are certain things about each movie that I just despise. I just cannot. I cannot. I do not like it at all whatsoever. I don't hate it. I just despise them. I don't know. I despise it. I just can't. I can't fathom how they could do that, but in a sense, in the grand scheme of things, it it's Star Wars, and if they would have never screwed up the way they did, we would have never gotten the Clone Wars animated series. We would have never got the Bad Batch. We would never have got all these other animated series that are coming out. We have never gotten the Mandalorian, where now you know, I kind of talked about the prequels, and I'm sorry if I'm jumping up ahead of here, but the future of Star Wars with Dave Filoni and John Favreau, they're doing an amazing job of bringing that first time feel when I watch Star Wars, especially A New Hope, and to be like, oh, that shit is real. That is real. That's awesome, you know. And to see what ILM is doing with with their new technology, with these like LCD screens that are like all over the place, and they're changing scenes and scenarios, but they're actually in a studio. It's just it's it's just Star Wars taking, you know, the imagination to another level, just like they did with A New Hope. Again, I ramble. I told you
Uh,
I'm gonna talk about Star Wars.
that's perfectly fine because you know the more you talk, the more content I have on here. So and the more people can listen to because it's all those are great points. I can disagree with you on prequels just because again I was of the age where the prequels were kind of made for. So when and we'll get back to the sequels and then the shows in a little bit, but I do want to focus a little more on the prequels because you know you have some disdain for a few of the choices, which a lot of the older. You're not that much older than me. You're only
Yeah,
you know 8 years older. So, but the more original or generation and a half, I guess you
right.
could say, of the original trilogy that wants one thing, but and there are a lot of missteps with the prequels, so they're not perfect. I love the prequels for what they are. Um, to me, Episode One is my favorite prequel, and the that lightsaber fight to me that's the best lightsaber fight in all the Star Wars movies.
Yes.
Um, especially when you got the greatest Star Wars song of all time, Duel of the Fates, backing that
Mm.
thing up. It's, you know, a lot of people hate Episode One, but they love Darth Maul. They love Duel of the Fates. So there's some good out of it. Yes, you get a Jar Jar, which is an okay character or a horrible character for some people. Um, but with Episode One, it was the one prequel movie that George Lucas actually spent the most time to craft the whole of the story because he started writing Episode One in '93. They started filming in '97, I believe. So it took him 4 years to kind of write and perfect that. I think that's one reason why I think it's my favorite. Plus, they recorded it on film and not digitally like they did episode 2 and 3, which to me helps the effects look a little bit cleaner than they do on 2 and 3. To me, 2 and 3, the special effects don't hold up as much to me as episode 1 does. Um, but episode 2 is okay. I loved it when it came out. It's been a while since I've seen it. I need to watch it again, but it's okay. Episode 3 is my least favorite of the prequels. It was the first time I came out of a movie kind of disappointed, just because it to me just kind of felt sloppy. It's like, well, we need to just hurry up and cut to the point. But to cut to kind of get to my point of the missteps of the prequels is from episode 1 starting Anakin out as a boy instead of an already established Padawan. I felt that may have been a bigger misstep. What are your thoughts on some of that?
Um, I actually kind of like to see Anakin as a young boy, and then progress into what he ends up being. And I know there's like a 10 or 12 year span in between episode 1 and episode 2, which in episode 2 a lot of people didn't really care for episode 2 because it was very political. It was all the behind the scenes of what Sidious was doing behind the scenes, and how he was the puppet master of making all these things move. And I mean, the Clone Wars kind of spins off more when you watch the animated series. But I mean, I grew a more love for the Clone Wars or Episode 2 after watching all 7 seasons of the Clone Wars animated series. But for the movie itself, a lot of people didn't really care for it because it was very political. It was very like it was very breathy. It was a lot of dialogue, and you had to really pay attention to know what was going on. So yeah, I loved a little of the character development between Anakin and Padme. Kind of see that they actually did have some type of chemistry going on there. But other than that, the movie itself is okay. I lean more towards 3 than I do any of the movies, any of the prequels, just because there's a lot of heart, there's a lot of passion, and there's a lot of you can sense the heart and passion and the hatred and the demise and all the things of that's happening between Obi-Wan and Anakin, and then Padme just like saying it's like when she's when what did she say? She was like, "I loved you," like the end, like that chokes me up every time I see that scene. Or when Obi-Wan says, "You were the chosen one. You were like a brother to me." Like that, I'm getting choked up just thinking about this scene because, I feel that way with my family as well. Because going back, it's all about family, and I feel that way with my brother sometimes. We kind of, bump heads a little bit here and there about some things. So when he says that, it's like my brother talking to me, like, ah! So it gets me. It's a lot of passion. There's a lot of heart. There's a lot of emotion going on in 3, and I guess that after a while, I really loved 3 more than I did any of the other prequels. Uh, One thing I didn't really care about is the logistics behind I have the higher ground. Like, Anakin, don't do it. I have the higher ground. Like, really, bro? Like,
Darth Maul had the higher ground too.
yeah, he had the higher ground too. Like, I don't know. Some of the writing, like I said at the beginning, was a little. It's like it was a little forced, and it was a little rushed just to get these movies out, and they didn't really think about them all the way through. And I guess in a sense, it's character in its own, just the way these characters are and how these movies are individually. Um, but again, like 3 has to be my favorite out of the prequels.
Yeah, the confrontation with Obi-Wan and Anakin probably is the biggest highlight of episode 3. I didn't care much where they basically sidelined Padme. She went from this strong uh, queen senator that's willing to fight on the battleground to a crybaby. she was basically crybaby in episode 3 because I think all she did, like every scene, was just her crying.
Yeah.
So it just kind of diminished her character a little bit at the end. But some of the effects to me were seemed kind of in editing seemed a little bit rushed. I think they didn't want to push the movie back a little bit to do the because they've got a release in May. That's another misstep with the. I guess the sequels were trying to, and then they, yeah, a lot of issues there. But yeah, episode 2 just between the episode 3 I don't like as much just because it's rushed. Episode 2 to me the pacing is a little bit better, but yeah, it's the whole prequels were political. But if you kind of think about it, the original trilogy was about fighting an empire. So the prequels were about how did that empire happen? Well, what is an empire except for a political regime? So you kind of have to put some, you got trade talks and all this and that, and like little kids aren't going to understand any of that. They just understand the space battles and lightsaber fights. But and to make it bigger, because with the original trilogy, it's in a more desolate world because Empire basically decimated probably majority of the economy of the world or the galaxy, and everything else, and so you needed a more grandiose, I don't know if that's a word, grandiose or whatever the word is, a bigger world for the prequels. So and he wanted the special effects to be further along to get that vision across, that he couldn't do in the original because it wasn't a they couldn't do that.
Right.
But overall, I do like the choices of at the end of episode 3. George Lucas made sure that you visually can see this in the same world as the original trilogy. Because at the end of episode 3, you have Obi-Wan on Tatooine giving Luke to Owen and Beru. You have R2D2 and C3PO on is it the Tantin 4? Is that what it's called? That ship? Mm-hmm. So they're on the ship that they are on at the beginning of episode 3. So he makes a good effort to visually tie in the prequels to the sequels.
Right.
That's my biggest knock on Force Awakens, is that they had no disregard for connecting anything. But, or no regard. They had average disregard. But we go into that the next segment here, where we talk about the sequels. So there was a big gap. Episode 3 came out in 2005, and 7 years later, George Lucas decided to sell Lucasfilm to Disney, and right away they went to start a new sequel trilogy.
Right.
So, what are your thoughts on the sequels? And also, it seems like the sequels are a lot more polarizing than the prequels are. Seems like I think social media has a big part to do with that, but it does seem like people hate the sequels more than, like, people who hated the prequels love the prequels now just so they can hate the sequels more. It seems like.
Yeah, my thoughts on the sequels are, like, they should have just let J.J. Abrams do all 3 and not give Rian Johnson The Last Jedi. Now, I just said that, but is The Last Jedi the best movie out of the sequels? Yes, it's the best movie out of the sequels, out of the 3. Just because it did more of developing characters and doing things within the movie that felt more Star Wars than The Force Awakens did, and then the last movie as well. I felt like J.J. Abrams was trying to bring this, like, cookie cutter type of Star Wars, where he basically was, like, remaking because to me, Force Awakens is basically A New Hope, but just in the future. And it doesn't, to me, it has some pretty good moments in it. Um, Kylo Ren is probably one of my favorite characters out of the sequels, and I wish that we could get more of him because his character is very, very, very good. They just didn't do enough writing for that character. They made him this emo, pissed off person, and it was just they didn't do a great job with it. I feel like if if George had a little bit of say on like how Kylo Ren would have been and act and talked and walked, it'd have been a little different. Um, Last Jedi, I don't really care for the movie, but I think it's the best one just because Ryan Johnson threw a wrench in what J.J. Abrams was doing. Just let J.J. just finish what his thoughts were, you know, like he set it up for you to do this was happening next, you know. But one of the things that I really am like upset about because we don't have a few of these characters anymore as human beings. We don't have Carrie Fisher. We don't have Peter Mayhew, and we didn't I think, what's his name? I forget the original name,
Kenny Baker.
Adam Baker. Yeah, Baker of R2D2. Like, we had a moment where we coulda had a scene where we had Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, C-3PO, and R2D2 all in one shot, and they failed to do that. That would have been that's that's like if you could remake one shot of Star Wars, if I could go back to the future, if I could get into a DeLorean and go back and say, this is what y'all need to do. It needs to be done now with a gun to their face. Not literally, but to say this needs to happen. I think that would be one moment that would be embedded and ingrained in everyone's past, future, whatever Star Wars fans, it would be one of those moments. It would be on someone's wall, you know, side by side picture of, you know, from A New Hope or Return of the Jedi, them in the Falcon, and then all these older characters with the new school characters next to them. They failed. They absolutely failed to bring that scene back to us again, and it was like they were think. It was like they were thinking about moving the story forward, but it's about the Skywalker saga, and they were worried more about Finn and worried about Rey, which I think the dynamic between those two characters is really good. And a lot of people, I'm gonna probably get flack for this, but Rey is a Mary Sue. She can not do any wrong. Do I love her character? Yes, I think she's a great character. I think she's a a good stepping point to move forward with Skywalkers later on in the future. If they so happen to want to do that, because at the end of was it the sky what was it called, the
Rise of
last Skywalker,
Skywalker.
the Rise of Skywalker, when she said, "What's your name?" and she said, "My name is Rey Skywalker." Um, that's a good that's a good point right there in the future to have Rey get a family, start something, depending on where the Jedi Order is. Are they going to still be where you cannot have any attachments or you cannot have any relationships? Where does that go? But I think moving forward, because I feel like Star Wars is what's going on in life at the time. And right now in time is like, you know, we got binary people, we have, you know, gay and lesbian people and people who don't, represent with anything at all. I think that's a great thing to do with Star Wars is to move that forward and not be and be subtle about it. And where it's just like the Jedi Order is no longer the way the Jedi Order used to be, and it's moving on to something different. But I felt like the sequels were not that great. After watching them as a cohesive trilogy, it's not very cohesive at all. The Rise of the Skywalker, J.J. Abrams was the first like hour and a half of the movie. He was trying to play catch up and try to, you know, put the pieces back together that Ryan Johnson fucked up. Or basically disregarded when he did one of these numbers when he threw the lightsaber away. basically Ryan Johnson was saying to J.J. Abrams is like, this is not your Star Wars movie that you thought was going to be. I'm throwing this lightsaber away, and I'm going to take it to a different direction. Checkmate or check. Let's see what you can do next. Which is a good thing and a bad thing because you're only dealing with one more movie to do this. If it was like 4 movies, then okay, you have a time to come back and bring these characters back that J.J. Abrams was trying to put in the front, like Rose and all these other characters. It just the last movie was just a hodgepodge of just running through the freaking trees as fast as you can and coming up with basically nothing. I felt really nothing at the end of that movie. Were there some really great moments in that movie? Yes, there were some awesome, awesome moments. One of my favorite moments of that movie was when Han and Kylo talked, or did they? Was it just him having an image of his father and then having that conversation with him? And when Ray, when not Ray, but when Kylo says to Han, he goes, "Hey, Dad," and he doesn't say anything, and then Han goes, "I know." Oh, literal tears, man. Like, yes, they did it. They did justice of, because we lost Carrie Fisher, his mom's not there, and that was their thing. That's what they said to each other. When Carrie Fisher or Leia said to Han, "I love you," and then Han goes, very cocky, "I know." That was their thing, and that's been a phrase in Star Wars for so long. Just those little things like that is what really makes for Star Wars fans like me to really enjoy that they actually put some time and thought in what they're really doing and not deviating from what Star Wars really is. Um, there's my long-winded answer.
Well, it's a great take because everybody's got their own opinion, and again, these are all opinions. So,
Right.
the thing I hate when people talk about gatekeeping is the only people that gatekeep are the people that hate it. But sometimes the people that gatekeep are also the people that love it so much. So people are allowed to hate things. People are now not like things. People are allowed to love things. So
Right.
I'm kind of the opposite on the Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, but I think that stems from my disdain for The Force Awakens because I felt like they should not have gone with J.J. Abrams because the biggest knock with him when it comes to Star Trek is he did nothing original. And so he did the same thing with Star Wars. So, because a lot of the Star Trek fans, their favorite of the trilogy, Star Trek trilogy, is the third one that felt more like Star Trek than the other two just felt like rehashes. It was more original. I guess I can't really speak for Star Trek fans because I'm not really a Star Trek fan, but that's from what I heard from Star Trek fans.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of been my issue with The Force Awakens is, and when I saw The Force Awakens, I went to AMC. We had the marathon of all 7 movies. So we watched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in one day.
Whoa.
Yeah, we started at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I wish they would have done it with the Rise of Skywalker, but they didn't do it. They did it for MCU, but they didn't do it for Star Wars when Rise of Skywalker came out. But it just, from the get-go, just fell out of place. It's the whole trilogy was trying to set up what the original trilogy already set up.
Yeah.
So, Han, Luke, and Leia, they all took down the Empire. Empire fell. Yes, there's going to be remnants of the Empire, and I think that could have been a great story of the Republic versus the Empire. But instead is, the remnants of the Empire took over again, and now the Republic, who's supposed to be the lead political group of the galaxy, is relegated to the Resistance, when technically the First Order is the Resistance. The Resistance is just a fleet of the Republic. So to me, the whole Resistance ideology doesn't make sense because they aren't the Resistance, because they are the leaders of the galaxy. So, and then, you brought back in the possibility of a Republic, of a Jedi Order, and before this movie came out, you already destroyed the Jedi Order. Like, it started, and then it got, we never got to see that. I don't know, I'm rambling, and probably it's the Force Awakens. It gets this out of me. When I talk about the other two, it will be a little bit different. But and then halfway through the movie, they destroy the Republic. They blow it up. I like the idea of Sky Killer Base or Stars Killer Base as the ultimate thing in the last movie. Not right after we saw Death Star. I know they have the line in it. It's a Death Star. It's not a Death Star. It's bigger. It's a bigger Death Star. That's all it is.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But and they turn it into a reboot / reunion special rather than a sequel to a movie. Yeah. So, like I talked about what George Lucas did with Episode 3, is he visually connected 3 to 4. There was no connection from 6 to 7 at all. Yes, I know 30 years, a lot of things can happen, but 3 to 4, there's 20 years between that, and you already really know, hey, there's an empire now, and so it's going to be a crappy world we live in. So it was easier to connect that if you watch it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But 7 just out of place, and I didn't care for the whole Luke is disappeared. He vanished. And you have to find him with a map that's lost. I don't understand that. Like, why would Luke be in hiding? So this is where I like Rian Johnson's interpretation of Luke, to where, he throws the lightsaber away, because technically him running away, not letting anybody find him, what is he doing? He allowed billions of people to die when Starkiller Base blew up those planets. Which, by the way, the capital of the Republic was not Coruscant, but it was a planet that looked exactly like Coruscant. Jakku is not Tatooine, but it looks like Tatooine. It has the same purpose in the story as Tatooine did.
Right.
The planet of the Resistance, where their base was, looked a lot like Yavin 4, and it was not Yavin 4, but it fulfilled the same purpose as Yavin 4 did in the prequels, or in the original trilogy. So that's another where they just kind of copied. I know with Star Wars, George Lucas has its poetry, there's rhyming, but it just felt like the rhyme in here was not a rhyme. Like, he did, in Episode 2, he had the sports bar scene, which was an homage to the
Cantina.
Sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear my daughter laughing in the background.
Not good.
So with Rian Johnson deciding to say, well, if Luke's just gonna disappear, why would he disappear for so long? Just to regroup so he can become like this god Jedi that, but I guess he says that in the, part of one of his lines in the movie is like, what, you think I'm just gonna take on the Force First Order with the laser sword? Like, what do people really expect Luke Skywalker by himself to do if he couldn't handle teenagers, teaching them to become a Jedi and letting a group of them kill everybody? So I understand Rian Johnson's I understand why he did that. When I first saw Last Jedi, I didn't know what to think of it. Like, I didn't know if I liked it or hated it. The more I watched it, the better I enjoyed it. Because the scene that made it, like, the first half is just but then it's the throne room whenever Kylo Ren kills what's his name?
I forget.
I just forgot too. Anywho, we're Star Wars fans. We don't even know the Star Wars character.
Right.
His name. Crap, that's gonna bug me. Snoke. Supreme Leader Snoke. Okay, so he killed Snoke. People hate that he killed Snoke because it set up this whole behind the scenes thing where, well, Snoke was around for so long. But I didn't care for Snoke, so I was okay with him killing off Snoke. And it kind of, Kylo Ren's character in The Last Jedi to me was a lot more established. Like he was able to grow a little more in the character. And The Force Awakens, he was a brat. Like that's all he was just a brat. So the villains in Force Awakens I didn't care for, but the same villains. Well, it was General Hux and Kylo Ren. Their characters were portrayed better in The Last Jedi than they were in The Force Awakens, because all they did was like yell and throw fits and stuff like that. But they were a little bit more established in the second one. But again, to your point, to where you didn't get the original trilogy cast together at all, and if Luke didn't run off, and then if Leia and Han didn't have some sort of falling out for some reason, well, I guess over Ben, their son, or Kylo Ren. But it I don't know, it did not feel right. They did not do the original cast or characters justice at all in all three movies. I enjoyed Rise of Skywalker. It is my favorite of the trilogy just because it's fun. Like, it was already kind of ruined by Force Awakens, so Rise of Skywalker was something fun for me to just enjoy as it is. So it's but yeah, R2D2 in my opinion got the shortest end of the stick. Like the shortest end of the stick, because it was C3PO and R2D2, mostly R2D2, but then C3PO actually got a lot of screen time in Rise of Skywalker. He was actually C3PO. Oh, well, actually both of them. But R2D2, like, all three movies, it's like he doesn't exist. Like, we don't need R2D2. We have BB-8. We just replaced him with BB-8. And now we're just going to, even though he's on Octu with Rey on the planet Luke Skywalker's on, we get one scene with Luke Skywalker and R2D2. And there's no reason for R2D2 not to be part of the whole group on there, interacting with everything. Why is he's on the planet with Luke? He should be excited and spend as much time as he can with him. Instead, he's sleeping in the Millennium Falcon through the whole movie. So, and then Rise of Skywalker, it's the same thing. It's like nobody cares for R2D2. He just, I don't get that. That's one of my big qualms with it. And I feel like I know I'm rambling more than you are. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
But I did feel like, Star Wars is about family. It's a story about the characters, but it has never been about the mystery of what is this, what is that, what is this, what is that. Yes, in the original trilogy, you have, how did the Empire come around, but nobody they didn't make it a mystery. The Emperor was there. Empire was there. Darth Vader it wasn't until you found out for sure that Darth Vader was Luke's father that you even had how did that happen? Right. In A New Hope, it wasn't, I don't think, it wasn't until Empire Strikes Back that George Lucas decided to make Darth Vader Luke's father. I'm not quite sure if it was in the plan from the get-go. I kind of not sure, but there wasn't a whole lot of mystery. But with the sequels, it was mystery of who's Rey, the mystery of what the Knights of Ren. Like, who are they? What are they? which that's another point. Though that's another thing that Ryan Johnson, I think, he kind of dropped the ball on, was he just disregarded them altogether.
Yeah,
And so
nothing.
in Rise of Skywalker, they were just brooding people, whatever.
Right.
So with no Jedi powers, so which doesn't make sense because if they're the Knights of Ren, but they were part of the group that dismantled the Jedi temple or school
Hmm.
with Kylo Ren when Luke said that he took students with him. That means there's should be other force wielding people outside of Kylo Ren. So, but they just put too much mystery in it to where they try to create a Star Wars hype with, oh, what is this? What is that? What is this? What is that? And they oversaturated it with that, and I think it was to their detriment because you're gonna try to set up something, and then you were gonna say, hey, now this director has all rights to what the next story is gonna be. To your point with handing it off to Ryan Johnson, and then they were gonna hand it off to I think it's Trevorrow. Is that his last name? The guy directed Jurassic World. He was originally going to direct Episode 9, but after Last Jedi kind of went downhill, they changed and got back with J.J. Abrams to finish it out. So what they should have done is whenever they got the property, write out a 3-movie plan. They're doing a good job with Marvel, and at that time, the Avengers just came out or was about to come out when they bought Star Wars. So they already had this footprint of how you can go about putting something together. But they just didn't go with it. They was like, okay, we're gonna write this one and do this one, and then worry about the next one later. So when you're working on a trilogy, that's the third part of a trilogy of trilogies, and 3 parts of a 9-part saga. You can't just do that. So, anywho, that's my rambling along for 2 hours. It seems like. I do enjoy the sequels as far as Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Is just Force Awakens that still bugs me because it's the reason why things went the way they were.
For sure.
But it sounds like with Star Wars, because of the sequels, that it's dead in the water, and the franchise is just gonna die, and now Lucasfilm or Disney is gonna start losing money on Star Wars. But that's not the case because now we have all these Disney Plus shows that have been coming out in the last 2 years that have kind of revived the franchise and kind of takes it back home to the way the original trilogy. Like it just feels more like Star Wars now.
Hello, I'm Billy, the host of Zero to Hero podcast, and you might know Ben from the Baker Rangers, but he is also a close friend of Zero to Hero and takes part in the numbskullery that is the Bulk and Skull podcasting. Join Jimmy and myself, and sometimes Ben, with technical problems as we explore creators and fans alike and their fandoms as the Bulk and Skull of podcasting. Follow Ben on Zero to Hero, anywhere you find your podcast.
Can you kind of go about or talk about how you feel about the Disney Plus shows and how that bodes well for the future?
Well, first off, they should have brought in Dave Filoni from the get go. He should have been on the forefront, or even a consultant when it comes to Star Wars, because the guy had already been doing. He came from Nickelodeon, and he was drawing for SpongeBob and some other things. And then he was a huge Star Wars fan, and he had did something and they asked him if he could come over and do the Clone Wars. Accepted and did Clone Wars, and it was doing fantastic. Well, if anyone knows about Dave Filoni, he's pretty much the Padawan to George Lucas. George Lucas basically told and shown Dave Filoni how Star Wars should feel and what what the saga is all about and how it should feel and where these characters how do they fit in certain things. And I really do feel like Dave Filoni should have been a part of that and would have slapped the hands of J.J. Abrams and slapped the hands of Ryan Johnson, be like, no, don't do that. Look at this. You forgot about this. You forgot about that. That isn't right. This isn't going well. So I'm really excited that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are a part of it. Obviously, Jon Favreau has been part of the MCU, doing some of the Iron Man movies as well, and you can see how great those have been. And he's done some other things like Lion King and other things. He's shown that he's a great director and he can hit deadlines and he can make a great movie. But Dave Filoni is known for his animation. He hasn't been really a director on actual screen. So to have Dave Filoni basically take him under his wing and show him like, hey, this is how you direct a great film. This is how you do some things, and then kind of let him on his own and seeing what he's done with his own episodes in The Mandalorian and in the Book of Boba Fett. I believe that Dave Filoni is the coming son, or that we should say the I don't know how to say it, but he's the person who's going to bring the cohesiveness back to Star Wars, and it should have been him from the get-go. Uh, I was really worried about The Mandalorian when I first watched it. I didn't know when I heard about it, didn't know how this was going to go. And the second I saw Baby Yoda at the end of the first episode of Mandalorian, I was like, "What?" That's the reveal. And just like how we were talking before, how the big reveal in the first trilogy was Darth Vader being Luke Skywalker's dad, and then the big reveal in the prequels was that Anakin Skywalker, which is Darth Vader, and then what goes on through there, and then with the sequels, the big reveal is that that Rey Skywalker is actually a Skywalker and the granddaughter of Sidious. That was the big reveal there, and it just took too long for it to get to where it needed to go. And then, but when you saw Baby Yoda from the first moment you saw him, you're like, what is that? Yoda? That can't be Yoda. Yoda's dead. What? Did he have relations? What is going on? Like, it keeps your mind going from that first episode, not at the end of the first season. From the first episode, you have so many questions. So it has you on the edge of your seat, like wondering what's going on with this Baby Yoda. And you don't see him for a long time, and you see him sporadically throughout the episodes, and you start to see this family sense what Star Wars is about, having a Mandalorian who is gritty and gritty and is a bad dude. He's a bad mamma jamma. Take him himself down a level or three or four to become a father figure to Baby Yoda, Grogu, and absolutely fall in love with this character. And I think everyone at the same time, as we're watching Mandalorian, as if we are Mando, and we are growing more and more in love with Grogu as we figure out who he is and who his powers are. And he's so vulnerable. You feel like you want to have a Grogu. Like my buddy of mine bought me a Grogu. I have one. So that's what Star Wars is about. So I am so glad that Dave Filoni is at the helm of Star Wars, because he is definitely um, gonna gonna let people know, like, he's the head of Star Wars, of everything. Like, at the Skywalker Ranch, like, his name says head of Star Wars. Like, he's the man. He's the end all be all of Star Wars, and it should have been that from the get go. I'm excited to see what the future of Star Wars is going to go forward, because we're already getting these little snippets of these holes that Star Wars is so like known for, like having these little holes and gaps in the story. And like, why did this happen? Oh, we'll just make a whole series about it. And I believe that that's what's going to be awesome about going forward with Star Wars. Especially, we're going to be talking about Obi-Wan later on, to find out what actually happened when he went back to Tatooine, and what did he actually do, and what was going on, what was Luke doing, what was Barut, and what was his uncle doing, and all this jazz, and moisture farming, and like maybe see how moisture farming actually works, and what do they do, and how do they farm it, and whatever. I think that's awesome, because it's something, a part of Star Wars that we've been talking about forever. It's like something you just talk about. So I just really, I'm really excited, and I just feel like Dave Filoni is course correcting what Star Wars has been doing for the past 40 some years. I would say the first three, gets a pass, because it's, even though it's not perfect, to me it is. I think one, two, and three are. I mean, the four, five, and six are perfect. Um, More number four than any of them. But I'm just really excited for the future of Star Wars, and not everything is going to be good. I guarantee that there's going to be something that is not going to be up to everyone's standards, and people are going to get upset about it, because you know a home run hitter can only go up to bat so many times and have a great average until he strikes out, right? So it's going to happen. But I think that, again, I'm saying it again, Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, with them two at the helm of Star Wars, their passion with it, I feel like we might go hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years into the future, and move forward from the Luke Skywalker or the Skywalker saga, and learn about these new characters, or go thousands of years prior to four or one, and talk about some of those things that are going on. So, I mean, there's a vast amount of things that they could talk about. There's plenty of books that they could take from the shelves in the library and open them up and bring these characters back to life. But I really do believe that they're course correcting, and they're going to make the sequels legend, and everything going forward is going to be canon. That's just my theory, and what's going forward is what's going to happen. Maybe not. Maybe they're just trying to make the sequels fit into this hodgepodginess that it is of the sequels. But again, I can't say it enough that I am excited of what's going on with Star Wars. Especially with Mandalorian, The Bad Batch, even the animated stuff that we got, like Visions. That was awesome. Any of that stuff that's going on that Dave Filoni has his hands on, it's just, I'm excited to be a Star Wars fan again, and to see what we're gonna get in the future, man. Like, I think it's gonna be fan fucking tastic.
Yeah. By the way, for my podcast, I'm probably gonna have to bleep out your bleeps because I try to stay family friendly. But but it's okay though. You be
Sorry.
yourself. You're fine. I should have mentioned that from the get go, but it's fine. No, I completely agree with you on because I feel like they went with J.J. Abrams because he revived Star Trek. Star Trek, not track. Sorry, my bad. And I think that was just I really don't know why, but going with Dave Filoni, even as like a creative voice for the sequels, and having Jon Favreau direct the sequels and have them be the partnership like they are with the, because I feel like they knew that things just didn't go right. I don't think they really know where to point the fingers at or all that kind of stuff. I don't think they want to. I don't think they need to. They just need to move forward.
Right.
That they're like, well, maybe Dave Filoni, he's been doing Star Wars since 2008. And maybe he's a guy we need to go to do some live action stuff, but we need somebody that's done more live action stuff.
Right.
Jon Favreau, he started the MCU with Iron Man, so maybe we can put that together. And they've done it so beautifully. Of the Disney Star Wars movies, the best one by far is Rogue One, because it felt more nitty gritty in the world of Star Wars, and the Mandalorian kind of fits that like that. Like it feels like Star Wars, even though there's no from the get go. All you know this Mandalorian that you don't even know, like you've never heard of before, but he's in the Mandalorian armor. He's something you can visually connect to as something in Star Wars. I feel like some of the things in the sequels, they tried to put too much new stuff in there. Like you need new stuff, but too much where it was just not Star Wars for me.
Right.
And Mandalorian felt like Star Wars. It was like a Star Wars Western. Baby Grogu, of course, is the highlight. I think that's why they had to put a little bit of that in the Boba Fett series, which I love. Boba Fett. It kind of turned from Boba Fett to Mandalorian season 2.5, but I enjoyed it. I hate that these are only like six or seven episodes each season, and Obi-Wan they're calling it a limited series, which I'm assuming it's not going to have a season 2. That's what I'm gathering from a limited series. I know it means it's got fewer episodes, but they didn't call the other ones limited series. So,
I thought I read or I heard somewhere that the Book of Boba Fett was like a one shot, like it was going to be a limited series as well. That it was only going to be that season and that's it. That there were, because kind of what I've gotten was from the Book of Boba Fett. If you're going to revive Boba Fett, you gotta tell the story of like what happened to him. And I liked how the first couple episodes, how it showed what Boba Fett was doing and how he got out of the Sarlacc pit and where he was going from there, and at the same time going through his past and the future and all that jazz. I liked how they did that, because that's been my question ever since I was a kid. Like, did he die? Did he not die? What's going on? We don't know about this character. And Star Wars in general didn't think that Boba Fett was going to be this huge character to begin with. So, but to bring him back and to have Boba Fett be in further series or even in movies, you kind of have to bridge the gap on what's going on. And I think that's basically what they did. And my theory is that the Book of Boba Fett was just a setup to have Boba be in the Mandalorian series. So the Book of Boba Fett is just done. It's done, and we're not going to get a season 2. And we're just going to have it's like gaining another city in like GTA. It's a big map of it all. It's just another place that you can go, and it's just Boba being able to roam free in the Mandalorian's world, because they're both Mandos and they just help each other out. Because I don't really think that personally. I don't think. I mean, again, I'm not a writer, but I don't think there's enough story to be told with just Boba, because now that they brought in Mando in it, it's like the Mando show now. So like for me, I don't think there's enough story to bring into season 2. Again, like I said, I'm not a writer and I'm not that creative to come up with something, but I'm pretty sure there's some creative ass people out there that could come up with something for a season 2. But I think Boba Fett's over, and he would just like segue into the Mandalorian.
Well, that was exactly what I was thinking. That the main point for the Boba Fett show was to segue to the next season of Mandalorian, but also extend, because you lost Grogu at the end of the second season of Mandalorian, so you can't just bring him back right at the beginning of season 3 of Mandalorian, because then that you did all that for nothing. And so you needed something in there that maybe disconnect itself from it to kind of draw you back to want that again. That's something different and familiar, because I don't know if I think they know that Mandalorian might not be able to hold its own without Grogu in the show, because like that's what makes them so popular.
Yeah.
So, if you have a Boba Fett show, people are watching because of Boba Fett. And then, it does kind of segue into, Mandalorian 2.5, and both the Mandalorian season 2 and Boba Fett segue into the next season of Mandalorian, but also Ahsoka, because you get more of Ahsoka too. So that's something I'm looking forward to, is to see kind of where they take that. Is it going to be in line with the Mandalorian storyline, or is it going to be more into the prequel realm? I feel like they're going to extend this future, because they've done a lot. Obi-Wan I'm looking forward to, but we've seen so much between 3 and 4 that we need to do more to connect the sequels. I don't feel like they're going to uncanonize the sequels. I feel like they could, because technically you can watch all the Star Wars and remove the sequels and it'll be just fine. But if you're going to add the sequels in there, there's going to be they need a lot of content to fit all that in. But I feel like they are doing a lot to connect the prequels to the sequels, and they're doing a good job with that to help connect all that. I think once they get more people okay with the prequels, they're going to try to connect the sequels a little bit more. I do feel because of the fans, there's already a bridge burned between Daisy Ridley and who played Finn. I don't know, but they've kind of burned their bridge between Star Wars. Like, I don't feel like they want anything to do with Star Wars anymore. They've kind of and I like to me the best part of the sequels, even Force Awakens, was the relationship between Rey and Finn. I think that was the only part I enjoyed of the Force Awakens, and because I love Finn's character. I think the way he played it was fantastic. They kind of like pushed him off to the side in Rise of Skywalker, though, but I would have liked to see more of them, doing some stuff with them. I don't think we'll ever get that unless, Hayden Christensen's coming back to Star Wars, and it's kind of like the same thing. So, but it also took him 10 years, 12, 15 years to get back in this world of Star Wars, where he, can go to Star Wars events, and people love him. Because I'm sure there was a dead period where he's like, I'm not going, everyone's going to boo me. And so now everybody loves him. So I'm wanting to see an Obi-Wan, like what they're going to do, because Hayden Christensen is going to be an Obi-Wan. But Obi-Wan takes place about 10 years after Episode 3. So Hayden Christensen is just, Anakin is just Darth Vader. So I'm wondering if they're going to do any callbacks, a lot like they did in Boba Fett, because Boba Fett, half the Boba Fett part of the show was what happened in the past. How did he get here? And then the other half, which I love that dynamic of going to the past and then to the future, and then the connection between what's happening now versus what's happened then. If they're going to do that, because the Clone Wars and Rebels kind of explained a lot of that.
Yeah.
So, because it would have been awesome to see a live action Obi-Wan Darth Maul final battle. I don't think we're going to get that, because they're adding more of the Inquisitors in there, that storyline. So they're kind of merging the live action with the which I guess the Mandalorian kind of did in season 2, just kind of merge everything together where everything is canon as far as visual.
Right.
And I need to watch more of Rebels. I've seen several episodes, but not a whole lot. And same thing with Clone Wars, because I know they're great shows, but I haven't watched them as much as I should. But I do love the way that they're just kind of merging everything together. Because we live in a day now. Because I used to be a proponent of the shows being the most canon to where you have to watch a show for the movies to make sense.
Right.
Which was why I like the fact that whenever Marvel did Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that it was part of the canon of the MCU, but you didn't have to watch the show to understand what's going on in the movies. A lot of fans did not like that. I like that because at the time, most people just watch the movies. They don't watch the TV shows. But now with Disney Plus being as big as it is, and with what they're doing with the MCU, because these shows are just so smaller in scale, 7 episodes each,
Right.
that you can make this like an extra movie part of it. So it fits in better with the understanding of what's going on. So I'm okay with it now. I wasn't okay with it then because nobody's going to go on ABC to watch Agents of the S.H.I.E.L.D. just to know what's going on in the next Avengers movie.
Right.
So, but now when everything's readily available, you can watch everything at your fingertips. Things are more accessible now, so it makes sense.
Yeah, you definitely have to watch some Rebels, man, because there are a lot of things that like correlate with what's going on with like Mandalorian and Boba Fett, with certain characters that are probably going to show face later on, especially probably in. Let me think about this. Probably in Obi-Wan, we might get some of these characters in Obi-Wan as well, because with the Inquisitors and all this jazz, we might see some of these characters. But something that we were talking about before, we forgot who Finn's name was, and it's John Boyega.
Yes, I don't know why I
John
forgot that.
Boyega. I was drawing a blank, man.
Sorry,
But kind of
John.
talking about, yeah, sorry, John. Like, we love you.
Yeah.
Hope you come back to the Star Wars universe.
Yes, please.
It would be cool to see. It would be cool to see Rey and John come back, or have them, because now they're like the old school characters now, and if they could bring them in, and they're like the old school of the new school kind of deals in the other movies. Maybe, I don't know. We'll find out what happens going on in the future, because we do have a movie coming out that is Untitled, with Taika Waititi is going to be doing a movie as well. We don't really know what his movie is going to be about, but um, just knowing how Taika Waititi is as a person, and how he writes and how he acts, I'm pretty sure it's going to be somewhat kind of like Ragnarok, which a lot of people didn't really care for Ragnarok, because it was too uppity. It was too happy, and it kind of took a story away from that is like a beloved story of Hulk, which was Planet Hulk, and they didn't really dig too deep into Planet Hulk. But for what it is, and to move the story forward of Thor and Hulk, because of what happened to Hulk and everything, uh, I think Taika Waititi is going to do a freaking amazing job with Star Wars. And I love one of his tweets that he put up. He was like, "I'm going to purposely screw up Star Wars." And fanboys went crazy. They're like, "You better not!" And he just egged the whole thing on the whole time on Twitter, because he knows what he's dealing with, So he might as well just like put that out there, that energy out there already, to get these fans all worked up, because he's probably going to give us a great Star Wars movie. Um, but yeah, one thing about Obi-Wan, that I found interesting doing some research, is that Hayden Christensen is going to be Darth Vader, but like is I immediately start to look. It's like, is James Earl Jones going to come back to do the actual voice, and he's just going to be in the suit? But then why cast him as Darth Vader if he's just in the suit and not use his face? So they're probably going to use his voice as Darth Vader, because nowhere that I've seen on um, IMDb or anywhere that shows movies and like the cast or whatnot, like the ones that have done Darth Vader in the past, like Scott Lawrence and Matt Sloan, have not um, been announced of returning. So I don't know about that and how they're going to do it, but I'm sure it's going to be fine. Um, some thoughts that come to my mind is like, why have him in it, or maybe why have him in it if it's just going to be flashbacks? And if it's just going to be flashbacks, then why have him in it to begin with? They could just have just anybody in the suit and just have James Earl Jones do the voiceover, and it'd be that. So there's probably going to be some transition from 3 into Obi-Wan where we do see Anakin in full, like, I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I'm just happy. May 25th on Disney Plus. I can't wait.
Oh, I know. Like right when I saw the trailer, I was like, I'm so excited. It's kind of weird. Like you get really excited when you start seeing the Inquisitors in there. Like, okay, so now this is going to connect to something. It's not just Obi-Wan brooding around in Tatooine being a hermit. Like, how are they going to make this a show? How can they make this exciting? Especially with like your point on Hayden Christensen. Why would he even be in it? Well, technically, why would Darth Vader even be in it? Because he had no contact with Obi-Wan since episode 3. Like, they have not seen each other. So he's probably going to be in the background with the Inquisitors. And the Inquisitors are going to be that's going to be the action of the show. I'm wondering if you're going to see any of Obi-Wan like leaving Tatooine, maybe doing some things outside. I really don't know. I think there's a lot of mystery on how they can make this happen, make it work for the story, because if he's isolating himself in Tatooine, and how do people not know about Luke and Owen and Beru, and how is he able to? I wonder if they're making the story of him just going out of his way to make sure that the Empire does not know that.
Right, in the background, he's fighting these Inquisitors just to make sure that Luke is safe.
Yeah.
And we'll probably get some dialogue and some scenes with aunt and uncle Owen and Beru, whatever, however it is, whatever it is. But you might get some, like, side scenes with them and with the child as well. But it's probably going to be like Luke is probably going to be oblivious, because I mean Luke doesn't know anything about old Ben. Like, they know of him. It's like, oh, you mean old Ben? Like, people know of him, but they've never seen him. Like, or they've seen him around. I don't know. Maybe he does know old Ben and seen him and interacted with him before episode 4. Maybe we get. I don't know. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they come up with, because Deborah Chow is actually the director, and writers are Joby Harold, who is known for John Wick and Army of Dead. And then obviously they got to put in George Lucas there because he's the creator of these characters. Then Hannah Friedman, who is writing 2 episodes of Obi-Wan, and she's also has been writing for an upcoming series this year on Disney Plus, Willow, which I'm kind of excited for, because I was huge into Willow when I was a kid. But it looks like the writing cast is pretty stellar. So I don't know. These are all filler words to say that I love Obi-Wan. I'm just ready for it to come out, man. It's so exciting. The most exciting part of that whole trailer is when Duel of the Fates came on. It was like, ba-dum, ba-ba-da-dum. When I heard that, man, I was like, turn this up. Let's turn this up, man. This is awesome, man. I can't. Yes, and in everyone's mind, I don't know if in your mind is when you heard that was like Darth Maul. Like that's the first thing I thought of was Darth Maul. But maybe it's just it's just a intro song to just the Sith in general, So hopefully we get some Darth Maul, but I think the Inquisitors on its own is just it's gonna be epic. Because if you know anything about these Inquisitors, man, they are some bad mamma jammas, man. And I can't wait to see how they do the whole little gyrating freaking it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, like with going back to Darth Maul, because I feel like Solo set up so much for the Crimson Dawn, and Darth Maul that wasn't. I haven't seen a lot of the cartoons, but I don't believe that in the cartoons they connected Darth Maul with the Crimson Dawn. I'm not quite sure. I don't know if the Crimson Dawn was.
And in Han the Han Solo the story, was that actually Darth Maul at the end?
Yeah.
When they showed that hologram, or was that just one of his species?
No, it was Darth Maul because he had the mechanical legs, and it was Sam Witwer who was the voice of Darth Maul in the Clone Wars cartoon. Yeah. So okay. I would love to see that continue live action, just because Darth Maul is probably my favorite Star Wars character. I know people think Darth Vader is awesome because he's the OG, but Darth Maul's just cool. Like he's just cool. So
he is very cool.
So
very cool.
And not just Duel of the Fates. You also heard I forgot the name of the song, but the final battle song between Obi-Wan and Anakin in Episode 3. That song played in the trailer as well. So there's that connection with Obi-Wan and Anakin and Obi-Wan and Darth Maul. So it's I think it's going to be interesting. Especially if it's called Obi-Wan, but he hasn't been known by that name in a long time, so maybe we get him just becoming, I'm Ben. Yeah. But he keeps his last name. Him and Luke both keep their last name, even though they're in hiding. But I don't know if they'll explain that. I don't know how you can write that off of, why did you just change your first name? I don't know.
Jane Kenobi. He's like this, general, like all over the galaxy that everyone knew about, and with the last name Kenobi, but no one knows who he is.
Yeah, because I think like in Episode 3, he was like the number 4 guy in the Jedi Order. I think it was like him or Yoda, Mace Windu, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and then Obi-Wan. Yep. But and Obi-Wan, he didn't want to stay in the council. He wanted to go out and he wanted to be a little more adventurous. But so he was high up on the Emperor's hit list. So, which I think that's where the Inquisitors come in, because that's what they're there for. They're there to kill off the Jedi that Darth Vader can't get to because he's just one person. So
yeah, they're just trying to finish Order 66.
Yeah,
trying to get all the stragglers.
Yeah, because now I think they did away with the clones, and so now they're just people in the stormtrooper suits instead of the clones. I'm sure there's still clones. It's probably like a hodgepodge because this is like halfway between 3 and 4. So there's probably this is probably during the transition away from the clones. But technically, this is kind of like an Easter egg because George Lucas did, when he was making the prequels, he did have intentions of the stormtroopers in the original trilogy, some of them be clones, because in Episode 2, when what was Boba Fett's dad's name? Jango Fett. When he gets into the Slave One, he bumps his head on the door. So that was an homage for when a stormtrooper, an actor, really bumped his head on the door. It really happened on accident, but they kept it in the movie, so they kind of played off that, he's kind of nearsighted, so he couldn't see the door as it was shutting, as the stormtrooper in A New Hope did the same thing. Which I think when they did there's the special edition, there's the DVD edition, and then there's the Blu-ray edition. So when they did the DVD edition of the original trilogy, they added a doink in there on when the stormtrooper hit his head.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I love that they are doing a lot to connect the prequels to the original trilogy.
Yes.
And hoping that they can do a good job of connecting the sequels as well. But it seems like they are not going that route. They're staying in their bubble of 3, 4, 5, 6. So, but I think eventually they'll expand. Mandalorian is kind of taking it that way. And you got the Clone Wars and Obi-Wan and Rebels that are filling in the other gaps. So
right. Yeah. It's exciting time, man. Just right after, just a thought I had, it's just right after the prequels ended, I was just like, how are they gonna fix this? Like how like I'm ashamed to being a Star Wars fan, but everything that we've talked about the past 17 hours
yeah,
has been about how we feel, and you and I both agree that the future of Star Wars is heading in the right direction. And just because we have two good people, especially Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, those two are definitely going to bring the franchise to where it needs to be, especially with these little TV shows and whatnot. I think it's going to be great, man. I think it's been great. I'm happy that we get to talk about Star Wars. And but one of the things that I think we kind of touched on and not was about why is it so polarizing, like all of Star Wars. And, I was thinking about like there are other movies that are polarizing that, you got fans going back and forth and why they are. To me, like I have my opinions on things and I'll say them out loud if someone asks me, but I'm not going on TikTok like raise a Mary Sue. I don't really like this character, like I'm not trying to put that energy out there. You know what I'm saying? Like I really love Star Wars and I want people to enjoy Star Wars as well. And I think it's just some of these older fans that just they want to bring back the way it was, from the get-go. But George Lucas has said it himself. He said Star Wars has always been for children and it always will be for children. So just like what you said, you kind of hold dear to your heart the prequels because you were a kid when they came out. I was a kid when I watched 4, 5, and 6, and then my nephew is a kid now. He was 8, 9, and 10 when we watched the sequels. So and he enjoys every single one. He loves every single movie. Cool thing that I got to do as an uncle is I got to take my nephew to all 3 first showings of The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of the Skywalker. All first showings he got to see with me in the theater, and that's a cool uncle feeling, that he's gonna have that when he ever gets to be on a podcast talking about Star Wars, and they ask him, "How were you introduced into Star Wars?" He was like, "Well, my uncle got me into it, and we watched the sequels first day they came out in a theater. I saw them with my uncle." So that's me, trying to instill my love for Star Wars into my nephew and for him to take that on with him because it's for the kids. It's always been for the kids, and to pass the baton onto my nephew, for him to love Star Wars as much as I do, like he's into it all. Like he loves it. Like he's got the cards, he's got the Legos, he's got them all. So he's into it. So I feel like I did my part as an uncle, to pass the baton of the passion that I have for Star Wars.
Yeah. And the big thing with the Star Wars fans, like it's generational. So whatever generation you are when you started, like if you started watching when the sequels came out, you might love Star Wars and you can enjoy all of Star Wars.
Right.
Because you might not get the into it from the beginning. The first one you might have seen was The Force Awakens, and then you loved it.
Right.
Or you may have said, "How do I get into Star Wars? What do I do? What do I do to start it?" And you'll get some fans say, "Hey, you have to watch 3, 4, 5, or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 7, 8, 9, and then just forget the prequels." Or you'll have some say, "Just watch 4, 5, 6. That's all you need to watch." Or no, you start like me. I would start because it's intended to be watched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now there are some things that you lose if you watch it that way. Because I don't like the fact that you know that Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader. You know that Luke and Leia are brother and sister before you watched episode 4. That could have been changed a little bit going into it, but depending on how you want to watch them, you can watch them however if you want to watch 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go ahead, watch 5, 4. But to my point, it's like when you started watching Star Wars, that's typically the Star Wars that you love the most. So
yep. I
love the original trilogy. It was my introduction to it. I love the prequels because I was of the age. I was 12, almost 13 when episode 1 came out. I loved it. So I loved them. And then the sequels were just different. So I think when people think that something's different than what they want it to be, they don't like it. And it's okay not to like it. And it's okay to like it. The issue is whenever you tell people you cannot like something because I don't like something. So, right. Or you can't not like it because I like it. So, but I think that's where stars become toxic with fans just wanting to be angry because something is different. So right. Things will always be different. You have to learn to adapt and change. That's how you grow. So if you want Star Wars to grow as a franchise, you have to grow along with it and know that things are going to be different. You may not like it, and it's okay not to like it. But sometimes things are what they are. So, and if you don't like the prequels or the sequels, and you think the only canon is the original trilogy, guess what? You have the option to only watch the original trilogy. No one's holding a gun to your head saying you have to watch the prequels. You
right.
So it's you like what you like, you hate what you hate, and if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it.
You're gonna have to watch it, or you don't have to talk about it either.
That's true too. I know I do talk a lot. Like I do make TikTok videos on hating Force Awakens. I try not to make people think I'm saying that because they shouldn't like it. I just don't like it. So I don't know. It's a fun thing on TikTok I like to do here and there. So, but again, if you love it, you can love it, and that's perfectly fine.
Right.
So. We're going on an hour and a half now talking about Star Wars. And guess what? There's a lot more Star Wars to be talked about too. But that's for another day. So I hope somebody's got something out of this. I hope people enjoy it. This is my 3rd episode that I've done. So I think I'm getting better as I go. I'm enjoying it. This is fun. Getting new people on that I might talk to here and there, but I don't talk to face to face. So getting that face to face interaction, talking about things that I love and love things that people love. It's good. I got a few good episodes lined up in the future, talking about more Power Ranger movies, MCU, DC. Austin Powers, a lot of stuff. I got a lot of stuff in the works. So I want to thank everybody that's been watching this on YouTube. If you've heard this on your favorite podcast provider, I thank you for listening as well. So Juan, do you have any parting words to say before we end the show?
Go check me out on TikTok. I'm Juan Reviews Movies on TikTok. You can also, I do have a podcast of my own as well. It's called Brews and Views. If you like craft beer and to hear me talk about movies and TV shows and my opinions on what's going on in the world, then tune in to Brews and Views anywhere you listen to your podcast at. Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, you name it, I'm on there. Go check it out.
Yes, please check it out. I've listened to a few of his Brews and Views podcasts. He's got some good stuff if you want to start a podcast too. His last few episodes were just so you want to start a podcast. So listen to him on that. Check him out on TikTok, Juan Reviews Movies. And we want to thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of Baker Rangers Movie Talk, please check us out on YouTube and wherever you find your podcast. And also check out our host, Zio the Hero, wherever you find your podcast, at ziodehero.com.